In this video module, we will be discussing installing the R environment that we'll use in both of our classes in the analytics framework. Note that this is a pretty straightforward process, and so those of you who are comfortable installing software can take a quick overview and then probably skip everything and then just go straight to the installation. Okay, so let's see what we're going to do. So for the overview, we're going to install three basic things. We're going to go through three basic steps. The first step that we're going to do is the base R package, which you can see the website that I'm going to go to here. The second is to install the RStudio integrated development environment. And the third is to install a set of packages, four packages in particular, that we will use that are from the textbook R for Data Science, which is our basic course textbook for the semester. So let's get started with the R installation. So here's the web page that I've already gone to here. You can see that this is the home page for the R project for statistical computing, which is sort of the home base for the R software. One of the things that you're going to see as you get more involved with using R is something called CRAN, which if we just go to the link really quickly, then we'll come back. This is the Comprehensive R Archive Network, and so this is essentially a group that maintains R and that maintains all of the packages associated with R. And so that's something that we're going to see a bit about through the semester and through your involvement with R. What we want to do is we just want to download the base R package. So I'm going to go to download R. And then the first thing it's going to ask me is to pick what's called a mirror. And so it doesn't matter, all of these conceptually are going to have the exact same software. So I'm going to scroll down and pick one in the US. You can see a couple that I've used before here. So let's just randomly pick one, and then it comes up and says, okay, pick your platform. We can do Linux, OS X, or Windows. Of course, I use Windows, and that's what our base course uses. So let's go pick Windows, and then we can choose which version we want. And so what we want is just the base version here, and then finally we get to the actual download. And so you can see we're downloading version 3.5.1, 62 megabits, and when you download this you get both the 32 and the 64 bit images. And so I've already done that. I've already gone through that download, so if you're following along you would go through that download right now. So now we're just going to open up, let me go to my download directory. Here it is, and there's the R version that we just downloaded. So we're going to just run this. Again, it's very straightforward. We're essentially going to accept all of the defaults. So it says, do you want to do this? Yes, I do. Pick your language. Accept the GNU General Public License. Where do you want to do the installation? And then which version or what materials do you want? Just leave them all checked unless you know otherwise. And for the startup options, if you don't even know what startup options are, then you want to have accept the defaults. If you are familiar and you want to change something, that would be the time to do it. Where do we want to create a start menu folder, which we do. And if you want to create a desktop shortcut or a quick launch shortcut, this is the place to do that. For registry entries, save version number in registry, which lets Windows know what's the latest version that you have, and do you want to associate our data files. And so again, my advice is, unless you know otherwise, just accept the defaults, and then we go through the installation process. And we're back, and you can see that I've completed the setup. So just click on Finish, and we have essentially installed the baseline R package. And so to see this, I'm going to hit the Windows key, and now what you should see here is two recently added applications, the 32-bit version, which is under i386, and the 64-bit version, which is under x64. And you should also scroll down, if you want to, you can scroll down and see, we should see the R directory here. This is a new one, and you can see those same two things. And so if you want to do something like pin to the start menu, this would be the place to do it. If you use the start menu, you can see it pinned it there. If I want to start this, I can then click and it opens up the R package, and you can see here there's our R version 3.51, and we can, if we want to execute, we can just say, let's just print hello world, and we have successfully installed R. With the baseline R package that we have, we can do R programs, we can execute scripts, and so on. But we're going to use a sort of more user-friendly integrated development environment in the course. So I'm going to quit out of here. I don't want to save the workspace image. And the next step that we have in our tool set is to install something called RStudio, which is the integrated development environment. So I'm going to go back to my web browser here, and I have RStudio here, and you can see the base or the home page for RStudio, and they have several different packages here. So we're just going to jump over to download RStudio. There we go. And RStudio has, well, let's see, is it going to go there? Let's click here instead. Let's see if it goes there. Yeah, so they have several different options, desktop and server. We want the desktop version, and there is an open source edition and a commercial edition. So almost certainly you're going to want the desktop, free version, community version, unless you want to pay $1,000 a year. So we're going to download that. And then it's telling us all the advantages of using their expensive one, which we're going to just ignore and jump over and download the free version. And so you can see the different options here. As we saw with the baseline R, we have the Windows version, the Mac version, and then several different Linux versions. So we want the Windows version here, and you can see there's the download, and as before, I've already pre-downloaded it. So let's just jump over here and go through and do the RStudio installation. As with the R installation, baseline R installation, we're just going to accept all the defaults, so this is a pretty straightforward process. Let's go next. Where do we want it? We want it right, something called RStudio, and I'll be back when this finishes installing. And so we're finished installing, so let me just click on Finish. And as before, I'm just going to hit the Windows key, and now you can see the RStudio. And so again, if you want to pin it to the start, you can do that here, and there it is right here. So let's just open it up. And for me, this is where I would pin to the quick launch bar, which is what I typically do. So since it's open here, I'm just going to right click here and say pin to taskbar. And now RStudio is permanently there. So we're going to spend some class time in the future talking about how RStudio works and all of that. So I'm just going to, again, run our quick little hello world application. Print hello world, exclamation, close quote, there we go, and it printed. And you can see, as with the base installation, we have successfully installed RStudio. Note that the version matches, and so on. And so that completes the RStudio installation. And so the last step that we need to do to get our toolkit set up for R is to install the packages or set of packages that are used in the textbook R for data science. So I'm going to jump over to my web browser again and go back, or go to our textbook R for data science. You have this in the syllabus. The textbook itself is freely available on the web. And so what I want to do is I want to go to openly introduction here, and there's section 1.4, which has the prerequisites, and it talks about what we just went through, the R and RStudio. What we need to do is install a couple of R packages. We need to install something called the tidyverse, and then we want to install these three packages: NYC Flights 13, Gapminder, and Layman. So I'm going to go to my back to RStudio. Here's RStudio, and I'm going to install those. So first thing I'm going to do is install packages tidyverse. There's our tidyverse, and just hit enter. And now R is going to go out and look and say, can I find it? And it did. And note that there are a whole lot of required packages associated with the tidyverse. And if all goes well, all of these will be installed through this single command. So I'm going to pause the video here. And as before, we'll be back when this finishes. So the installation is finished here. You can see it installed a whole bunch of packages that I mentioned before. One thing that I forgot to mention before I went away before is that the installation is going to ask you if you want to install the source code. Install sources is what it says. You probably don't want to do that unless you have a compelling reason to have the source code. So you can click the no box in that dialog box. And so we're here, and now let's check this out. And so make sure everything got installed. So I'm just going to do library tidyverse. There's my tidyverse right there. And so just hit enter. And now it's going and loading. It says there we go. Error package failed. Ooh, let's see what happened. Oh, didn't do string I, so we're going to have to do that. So, problem fixed. Let me explain exactly what happened here. It shouldn't happen to you if you follow my advice, which I didn't do. When I made the initial video, I clicked that I did want to install from source by accident, which I said don't do. But anyway, I did. And so it came up and it said it couldn't deal with the package string I, so it was trying to do a compilation. And so what I had to manually do is go back and say somewhere down here, right here, install packages string I. So I just installed that manually, and this time I answered don't install the source, and it installed the binary version. And then everything was good. You can see that it was installed. And then when I issued the command library somewhere string I downloaded right here, library tidyverse, it then installed or opened the basic packages. So again, you shouldn't have to do this as long as you answered the question you didn't want to install the source. So at this point I'm just going to do the MPG, which is a data set that we'll work with, and just to see that this was all installed properly. And you can see this is the miles per gallon data set that is in fact part of the tidyverse. So we've successfully done that. Go back to our overview, and now we need these 3 additional dataset packages that we'll use for the textbook. So as before, I'm going to go back and do those. Scroll over here. This time I'm going to do install packages C to create a vector NYC flights 13 Gapminder LAHMAN. So the 3 packages, and hit enter, and hopefully it's going to go find those packages. So it's downloading the URL, find them, and so on. And there we go. So we have installed the 3 data packages that we'll use, and we're finished. And so we have installed the basic R components that we'll use. Again, 3 different components, or 3 different installation packages. We did the base R, we did RStudio, and then we did the tidyverse and supporting components.